Hi guys and gals, Froggy here. Today I am going to show you how to finish the job of lubricating, greasing the poly bushings. Okay, I've already got the car up. Not going to show you that every time I do one of these. It's up on 2 floor jacks, got jack stands in the middle, and I lowered it down a little bit on the jack stands, so I've really got 4 lift points there, 4 secure points. This, I could have a good old Southern California earthquake and this is not going anywhere. So, here's what we're talking about. This is driver's side. We're talking about this poly bushing here and way back there, that poly bushing there. So this has got a kit. When you put in poly bushings, you may or may not put in a camber kit. This has got a camber kit. I'll do something on the camber kit on another date. Right now I just want to do the poly bushing. So I've got 2 bolts to loosen up. Now this is under a lot of tension, trust me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try jacking up right under the lower ball joint. Let's see if I can show you that a little bit better. Get some glare. Okay, I'm going to jack under the lower ball joint. That's going to take all this spring tension off of here. It's going to take the shock tension off, right? I think this end will be kind of easy to move around when I take the bolts out. So we'll see. Let's give it a shot. Change of plan here. Instead of jacking underneath the lower ball joint there, I decided to jack underneath the spring. The reason is, if I jacked underneath the lower ball joint, I've still got spring tension pushing down on the A-arm, which I think would transfer back up to where the control arm meets the subframe. So under the spring, that takes a lot off. See, I can move it a little bit. I need 2 hands to move it. But I think the only thing that's putting tension on it now is the shock. It's a gas charged shock. So I'm going to disconnect the shock and see if I can move it out of the way and see if I've really got this loose. Then I should be able to. I just need to drop this, the inside end of the control arm, about 2 inches, so I can pull the bushings out, lube them, and stick them back in there. And all I need is a couple inches. So let's see how that goes. I'm going to take the shock off. Well, as you can see, I took the shock off at the bottom, and I also disconnected the sway bar. You're going to have to, because the passenger side is in full droop and the driver's side is jacked up somewhat, you're going to have to jack underneath the lower ball joint to get the tension off the sway bar, because the sway bar is doing what it's supposed to do, and you have to unbind it to be able to get it off. But I just put another jack under the ball joint, plus the bottle jacks under the spring, and now it's completely loose. It's just got its own weight and some weight from the rotor and the caliper and everything else. So I should be able to pull out these poly bushings without disconnecting the ball joint. I mean, I could do that, but why? I just want to re-grease these poly bushings. They look pretty good, but it's been 1.5 years, so I want to do it. So I'm going to pull them out. I'm going to clean them. I'm going to use some alcohol as a lubricant to push them back into the control arm fitting where they go, and then I'm going to lift it back up and bolt it back together, and I'm done. So this wasn't too bad. I would say, I don't know, About the same as the upper, I guess. There's another video of the upper. You can take a look at it. Okay? So I'm going to pull these out and take them to the bench, clean it all up, put it back together. Froggy out for now. I want to see if I can show you, before I take it out, I want to show you the grease that's in here. Not so much what's facing you, but what's in the hole, where the bolt, where the bushing would move around the bolt. There's a poly bushing, and then there's a sleeve that sets in on these lower control arms. It's got so much grease in there. I really probably didn't even have to do this. The grease stayed in there. It's a very high quality grease. It was provided by the guys that make the poly bushing kit. So, I'm going to take them out and do it anyway, but this grease stays in real good. If you're having trouble with poly bushings, either they're a bad design or you're using the wrong grease or both of the above. But these are really quite good, and it's been 1.5 years, and they're loaded with grease. I didn't need to put any extra Zerk fittings on them. I just greased them good when I put it together originally. Okay? Okay, I've got my parts on the bench. I cleaned them up. I inspected them. There's no measurable wear at all, and they all were wet with grease. Now I will say that when I put them in, I filled these grooves. You can see the grooves, I think. The grease retention grooves. I filled them up with grease, and they're pretty empty of grease now, so I would say the grease did get used up in that it moved from the grooves onto the surface where the bushing is supposed to rotate. Now, it rotates between the metal sleeve and the poly section. It doesn't rotate here. Doesn't rotate on the bolt. It rotates right in there. That's where you need to grease it. And this face too, and this face too. Okay? Alcohol goes here. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean up the other side on the car a little bit. Maybe use some brake cleaning fluid or something. And then put it back in and proceed. Based on this, just one note. I would say, it depends on how many miles you put on the car and how many track days you do, but you could probably go 2 years, again, depending on how much and how hard you use the car. But 1 year is probably too often, unless you're doing 20, 25 track days a year and putting 15,000 street miles on it. Then maybe once a year. I don't do that many, so I think I'm going to go on a 2-year interval if I keep the car. Okay, we're back on. You have to pry the lower control arm a little bit to get it lined up with the holes in the subframe so you can get your bolt through there. Just a little bit of prying, not too much. And it's good now. We just got to put the sway bar back, shock back, and that's about it. Maybe put the wheel on. Okay? Rinse and repeat for the other side. That's about it for this. If you think this was helpful, give me a thumbs up. You want to see more from Froggy, subscribe to my channel. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye. Passenger side's out. Took about 30 minutes. Driver's side, 2.5 hours. Well, when you know what you got to disconnect, it just goes faster. I should be able to do this whole side in just a few minutes over an hour and even drink a Coke at the same time. Okay? Here we go. Everything's the same as the driver's side. Everything that's supposed to be lubricated is lubricated, and there's no measurable wear on any of the poly parts. Okay, I found one small area on one of the poly bushings that's worn. It's a lower control arm. It's the rear bushing. I think I've got it in close up here. I'm going to try and show it to you. Maybe if I light it from the side. Right there. Right in there. There's some wear. Not enough, in my opinion, to cause a problem. I'm going to lube it up and put it back in. But that is the full extent of the wear that I found. I think you can see it there. Let me make sure I got it in close up. Yeah. There. There's a good picture of it right there. It's just rubbed. It's rubbed and it's lost some of its dimension, I'm sure. But this is a year and a half. The car's tracked, autocrossed. I've won several championships with it, so it's driven pretty hard. And that's all I can find. Just one side. Driver's side was okay. This is passenger side. See it?